Alright, so I'm Daniel Asensio. Sorry there's like an echo or the lighting is weird because I'm doing it in my restroom. It's like the only quietest place in my house right now, so yeah. Um, so forgive me for that. I'll be doing my speech on Malcolm X. I've actually been reading a lot on him during this little break that we've been having. So my exact purpose would be to inform people on the early life of Malcolm X and the impact that he still has and still holds even with all this time. So I chose this because I've been getting into him, and also because I noticed after getting to college is that we don't really appreciate him as much as you could say. When I grew up, I was only informed about Martin Luther King. Like I knew about Malcolm X, but there wasn't like a same like they didn't praise him as much, I guess. So I'm trying to like I guess educate and inform on that, and so that's why I chose this. So Malcolm X is a man who like you can actually see the progress that he made from being a kid facing racism to the man he ended up being before he was assassinated. Malcolm X was a man who turned his life around through all the hate and endured. Malcolm X was a man who turned his life around through all the hate and racism he endured and turned himself into an influential speaker. Our first point is he went through racism in early life. So when he was a kid, he was born in 1925 in Nebraska, and his father was a Baptist preacher, and he moved to Michigan. So when he moved to Michigan when he was 6 years old, I'm doing this in one take, so it's kind of like live. But so when he was 6 years old, he got threats from his family when he moved to Michigan, and his dad was killed by a white supremacy group called Black Legionaries. Black Legionaries. So he was hit by a car, and he went through that at 6 years old. So he grew up without a dad. When he was a kid, he went to a white school, which was kind of surprising. Like, there's pictures of him. It's just him, as the only African American in his school. It was like 8 years old in the picture, I think I seen. And he wanted to be a lawyer at a young age. So he told his teacher like he wanted to be a lawyer, and his teacher responded with, because it was back in those racist times, his teacher responded with you can't be a lawyer. The white people won't hire you, and you should become a carpenter instead. It fits more of your needs. And he also used that slang that they used that I won't say. And then after this, he moved with his half sister to Boston at 17, and then he got a job, and that's how he ended up in Harlem. And basically because I can't really talk for him, but after his teacher told him that, he started getting into crimes such as gambling, drugs, and he was basically the person who like called out the prostitutes for the pimps. So yeah, and then so after that he was prison first at 19 for robbery, and then after that again for robbery at gunpoint, and then the third time was he kept robbing homes. It was like a series of like burglaries in Boston. So yeah, he ended up in the state penitentiary or the state prison because of that. And a fact that I thought was pretty interesting, and the most interesting fact that I got out of this was his cellmates actually called him Satan, because he would always be pacing around and cursing God in the Bible. He actually said himself that he was an atheist, and I guess he was just talking crap about God because he didn't believe in him. So I guess, yeah. So in prison, he read a lot. He read a lot of history. Obviously, black suffrage and everything. The thing that made the biggest impression on him was slavery. He said himself that he read so much that every free moment I had, if I was not reading in the library, I was reading on my bunk. And he also said it would take a wedge to separate him from books, from reading. So yeah, so in there, he got most of his knowledge on that. And then he was also influenced through... He was influenced to join the religion of Islam. So when he got out, he followed his siblings' footsteps also and joined the Nation of Islam. And he also got closer with the leader, Elijah Muhammad, who was the leader at the time. One of their biggest ideals, I guess, which, I mean, it could be seen as negative also because they're doing the same thing, was they taught them that white people were a race of blue-eyed devils created by millenniums ago by evil scientists. So they would talk bad about white people a lot because of the racism named there. And he got fame through the Nation of Islam when he joined. And just the fact about Nation of Islam was it had 400 members in 1952 and it went up to 40,000 by 1960. Before he joined the Nation of Islam, he dropped his last name Little for X because he said, and this was one of the videos I had seen, he quoted that his last name Little was a slavery name, a name given by his slave master. So he dropped it for X, claiming that that wasn't his last name. And he fell through with the Nation of Islam because he started becoming self-aware of Elijah Muhammad, the leader, for violating, I guess, codes that they had. And then Muhammad then, after, suspended him in 1963 for Malcolm X saying that JFK's assassination was the chickens coming home to roost, which is like a term saying like, in return, kind of loosely means like, all the bad things you did are coming back, I guess. And then he then separated from the Nation of Islam and just joined traditional Islamic religion. And then he changed his name to Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, or Shabazz, I don't know how to say that. But then he basically, when he left, he basically shit-talked Muhammad, saying he accused him of religious fakery. And then this is why people think that Elijah Muhammad was behind all this, behind the assassination of him. He founded the Afro-American Unity before he died in June 1964, and then he was assassinated February 21st, 1965 in the NYC. And they caught one guy, that's for sure, because they shot him, and then he had to be separated from the crowd because they were almost about to kill him. His name was Thomas Hagen, so he was like the only confirmed killer. But when they went to trial, he said that the other two that they caught after, that they had no part in it, and there was actually 4 other people that weren't including the guy that they caught, so there was 5 in total. And they only caught 3, and 2 of them weren't even the right ones, according to Thomas Hagen. So yeah, I just chose this speech because, again, I think we should learn more about Malcolm X, even though he had more of a violent attitude towards things. And that's why I think that people are scared to teach about him, because they are scared that that could happen, and his quote, "by any means necessary," could go far ahead, I guess. And yeah, that's it. Daniel Asensio in your Tuesday and Thursday class, I believe. Yes.